Welcome to today's podcast. This is episode 3 of First Street Soundcheck. I'm Lucas Johnson. I'm an investment advisor representative, and today I am with Allan Finnegan, who is a dental attorney here in St. Louis.
Yes.
Hi.
How-
Welcome to the soundcheck.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Lucas.
I think it worked out. The sound check worked.
Yeah. All good.
So, what did you have for lunch today?
I actually had coffee. It was a busy morning and I didn't get a chance to eat yet.
Okay.
How about you?
So, I had a piece of pizza that
Okay.
was out of the fridge
Okay.
from a couple weeks ago. I did check for mold.
Okay.
I did not have any. And then I had some ravioli that was also, I checked for mold, and there was none on there as well. So I think the audience will be glad to know
You're all set then.
that information. So I'm ready to go.
Hey.
Okay. So tell me a bit about your background. I know you're an attorney.
Mhm.
Tell me a bit about like where you went to school, how many years you've been in practice, that type of thing.
Sure. So I graduated law school in 2014. So I've been out about a little over 10 years.
Okay.
When I got out of law school, I worked for one of the big four accounting firms and I did corporate tax law for them.
Okay.
I worked there for about 3 years and I had enough and I left and I bought a small business here in St. Louis.
Okay.
Kind of completely got away from the legal field for a couple years.
Oh, okay.
Built that business up to where it didn't need me anymore.
Mhm.
I learned a lot doing that. Learned how to hire and fire employees,
Oh, yeah.
marketing, everything that
That's
comes
fun.
with owning a small business.
Yes.
And while I was doing that, I still have a close family friend that helped build up one of the biggest oral surgery practices in the country here
I
in
didn't
St.
know
Louis.
that. I didn't know that.
And he decided to leave the practice as like their operations officer manager and start doing consulting for oral surgeons. And he quickly found out that a lot of that work is legal work. So he asked
Okay.
if I wanted to help out. So I kind of started getting involved. I loved it. And that was about 7 years ago. And ever since then, it's just been exclusively working with dentists. And so started with oral surgeons and kind of branched out into other specialties and GPs. And that's
Okay,
where we are today.
So do you exclusively work with DDSs, DMDs, or do you
Mhm.
work with MDs, DOs?
If they're oral surgeons, a lot of times they have their MDs as well,
Okay.
but typically not specifically MDs or DOs.
Okay, so you're just focused in just on DDS, DMDs
correct.
right at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as far as so you don't work with any other small businesses. What do you really enjoy about working with dentists specifically?
I think it's a couple things.
Mhm.
I always grew. It's funny how things come full circle.
Mhm.
I grew up always wanting to be a dentist.
Okay,
Like people's,
really?
people's teeth. I know.
So did my mom, and she's an attorney too.
Maybe there's something there. People's teeth, their smile is the first thing like I notice.
Yeah.
And so I always grew up wanting to be a dentist. At Mizzou for undergrad, I was on like a pre-dental track for
Okay.
2.5 years, and I decided to do finance and then law school.
Mhm.
And so I've always had this like I've always been drawn to like the dental industry.
Mhm.
And so it's funny how it's kind of come full circle now. And I like working with dentists too because they're very smart people. Like
Right.
you have to be a smart person to get into dental school, go to dental school, become a dentist. And so they ask like really good questions.
Okay, yeah.
I'm constantly kept on my toes. I've worked with other clients like small business owners previous to kind of niching down into dental that they just like, yeah, whatever you say sounds good. Like I didn't read it. I'm just,
Yeah.
expecting like what you're telling me is true. Whereas,
Yeah.
the dentists keep me on my toes. So
Now I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I know you kind of watched The Banker last time.
yes,
Commercial from Commercial Bank. He said that all the dentists and the DOs and everything, they all email him at 12 a.m.
Yeah.
Is that what you find also? Is that your clients are emailing you and calling you
Yes.
at
yes.
because they're busy during the day?
Yeah, and my wife, she's fantastic. God bless her. She's that's her least favorite part of my job is, most of my clients are doing clinical work during the day. I mean,
Yeah.
and they, I might get a text here or there, but a lot of my work comes in early in the morning or later at night when they have a chance to talk. And that's just part of how it goes.
And you
so.
actually work with them right at that time period.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
You know-
Again.
you know what the banker said? It's only from 9 to 3 or whatever they
Yeah.
work,
I don't have the
banker's
luxury of
hours,
doing that, yeah.
banker's hours only.
No, these are attorneys' hours. You pick up the phone whenever you get called, so
And they only get paid a certain amount. But bankers, I mean,
right,
like
right.
this is their salary. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever. Take care of in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's good. As far as as far as legal services go in the dental industry, what would be like the most not ask thing, but the most requested service?
It's really like when a dentist is going through some sort of big transition.
Okay.
That's, bringing on an associate as a partner
Mhm.
or hiring an associate,
Mhm.
buying or selling a practice.
Mhm.
We, for whatever reason, we rank really high for like associate agreement reviews. So we do a
Yes.
ton of help with associates that just get out of school and they're signing their first employment contract. I'm sure we'll get to this later, but DSO work is taking up
We
more and
will.
more of what we do.
Mhm.
Um, More and more so like splitting from DSOs because it doesn't work out. But yeah. And then, involved with a lot of this is real estate and leases and kind of ancillary things that um, are part of the deals too.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So you're more into the deal stuff and also the hiring
yeah.
contracts,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
So we get leads every day for people that are looking to sue their dentist. Unfortunately, we
You
don't
don't do
touch any of that.
malpractice?
No. I just not gonna say anything about
No
those
medical
type of attorneys,
malpractice?
but some of people are going through some pretty rough stuff, but we don't touch any of that. And with the type of legal work we do, it's transactional, so we can practice across the country.
Okay.
But when you start getting into like filing lawsuits, malpractice, whatever it might be,
Mhm.
you have to be admitted to that state
And
bar, so we can't touch that.
you're currently Missouri only.
Correct.
State bar, I mean.
Correct.
But you can waive. I think my mother, she's an attorney. She was talking about like waiving in or something like that, where you can get into the other bar.
Correct. Correct. States have
Was
like
it called waiving in or?
yeah, I've never done
You
it,
know what
and
I'm
that was
talking
a
about.
while ago. But yeah, there's like reciprocity.
Yeah,
and things
exactly.
Like that,
She
so.
said California, New York, and Hawaii are like off limits or something.
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah.
Because every retired guy wants to move there and then
Right.
open up practice.
Right,
That's
right.
why.
Yeah.
So as far as purchasing, let's go to like acquisitions and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's fine just to jump over there.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the biggest legal mistakes dentists make when purchasing their first practice?
I would say yeah.
So let's say that how old do you think they would normally be when they're purchasing their first practice?
It's usually, I would say, around like 3 to 5 years after graduating.
That soon?
Yeah, at least with the
Interesting.
clients that we work with.
So they would be in their early 30s.
Early 30s. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Which is now I'm a few years older than that, but that's one of the reasons why I love what I get to do every day, because a lot of the clients, especially those first time buyers, are around my age,
Yeah.
going through the same life things, and it's just you get to know them on a very like personal level, which is very neat. But yeah, so typically a couple years out of school, they get the itch to own their own practice, or they've already negotiated into their employment agreement that after 2 years, 3 years, they can buy into that practice. And I would say I think, did you ask what the biggest mistake is, or
Yeah, like the biggest legal mistake if you're in your
Yeah.
early 30s.
when you're getting ready to buy into a practice? I would say not getting legal counsel involved at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a lot of the practices are going to be sold through a broker. And we work
Okay.
with some of the best and biggest dental brokers in the country. And a lot of the reps are just phenomenal. And if you're a seller or even a buyer, a good dental broker is worth their weight in gold.
Really?
Yeah. And
Do they normally get paid on commission or hourly?
they do. They're all commissioned. So they're
Okay.
going to take usually like 8 to 10% of the purchase price.
Now, is that the purchase price of the practice or real estate or both?
It can be both. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So with the real estate, so it gets a little gray with like brokering and state licenses.
Yeah, that
so
was
if they're licensed to have the real estate license in a state, then they can sell
Yeah.
the real estate too. We work with brokers all the time that don't have that, and they still classify it as a consulting fee versus
right.
like a commission from the real estate, and they still get paid. So, uh, yeah, but most of them are going to get a commission from it. So
Yeah, that was an interesting thing last time with the banker is how they finance the deals. Like a practice loan was 5 years or 6 years,
yeah,
but the real estate was 20.
yeah, yeah,
And then they had to he didn't know how the brokers were paid. So, but you do.
yeah. They're all going to be on commission.
So let's go.
So
So let's go back to the
yeah,
biggest.
yeah. So getting back to that, the reason, and so buyers have to remember, especially first-time buyers that haven't gone through this before. They're just kind of starting to learn about business, being interested in
Mhm.
business, haven't gone through the process. Brokers, even the good ones, they're incentivized to sell the practice at the
Mhm.
highest price as quick as possible because
Right.
that's when they get their
Right.
sellers paid. That's when they get their commission. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
So a lot of brokers will kind of push the buyer into signing a letter of intent.
That's what we're going.
Um,
Mhm.
and they will frame it as, well, the LOI is non-binding, so you can sign this and we can discuss it later.
Can you just briefly describe what the LOI is like in layman's terms? It's like
Yeah.
very basic.
So the letter of intent is just going to be the legal document. It's usually going to be around, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages,
Okay.
that is going to be coming from the buyer
Okay.
to the seller, offering certain terms that they want to purchase the practice
Okay.
on.
Okay.
So, it's going to include purchase price. It's going to include how the parties will handle
Mhm.
accounts receivable, all of that.
Okay. And this is 4 to 6 pages, you said.
Yeah, 4 or 5,
So it's
6
not some
pages.
huge
No,
thing.
it's
Okay. Okay.
So the brokers will tell buyers, it's non-binding.
Mhm.
And in most states, letters of intent are non-binding. So if in the letter of intent the buyer says, I'm going to pay 500,000 for this practice, and then
Mhm.
they find something during due diligence which causes them to want a reduction of, let's say, 50,000,
Mhm.
they're not beholden to that 500,000.
Okay.
They can always change that. But what
Okay.
brokers will do in an effort to push it along and get paid sooner is they will tell the buyers to dispense with an attorney. You can always negotiate these terms later.
Mhm.
There's 2 problems with that. One is that sellers really, it's like a psychological thing. They become anchored to these terms. And they're all material, but they can all be negotiated later or changed. But it leaves a really bad taste in a seller's mouth if they think they're getting X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
And then, a month later, after the buyer gets representation, they come back with 3 things that are materially different.
Sounds like when I sold my house.
Yeah,
This is
very
wrong. This
similar.
is wrong.
Right.
This is wrong.
Exactly.
Reduce the
exactly.
price.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's
Um,
kind of what it is. I mean, in a
yes.
layman's term type thing, like
Yeah.
selling your house or buying your house.
Yeah, exactly. It works the same way.
The home inspector comes in, they're like, "Oh, this is
Right,
wrong. You
right.
got termites.
Right,
You
right.
got radon gas.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah." Right. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like what we're talking about.
Yeah, very similar. So, the buyer will, the biggest thing will be financial due diligence that they'll do.
Mhm.
They'll have a CPA or an accountant go through the numbers, productions, collections reports, making sure that like the P&L is all tied to the
Mhm.
tax returns, things like that. So, that's one of the big problems, is that sellers get anchored to these terms, and it could be tough to change them later. The other problem is if you're working with a dental broker,
Mhm.
this usually isn't a problem because they know the material terms that will be in a dental APA. But if
What's
we're
the APA?
yeah, an asset purchase agreement. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So,
got
yeah, slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And the asset purchase agreement, without going too far off track, is just going to be the main document that transfers the practice from the seller to the buyer.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so in most dental deals are set up as an asset purchase, meaning the buyer buys all of the assets of the practice but doesn't assume any of the liabilities,
Okay.
versus a stock sale where they would buy the shares or the membership interest in the corporation, but along with that would be all of the assets and any potential liabilities.
So, are most of these practices set up like LLCs? Are they set up like C corps, S corps? How are they set up?
So
I mean, in your experience,
yeah,
obviously,
I would say
or sole proprietorship.
no, that would be. Please don't do that. Please do not do that.
You could.
Yeah, you could, but you're asking for trouble. We do come across it every once in a while, but a lot of the sellers we see have set up professional corporations. So,
PC.
Yeah, PC. So most states are going to require, if you go the corporation route and you're a dentist, you set up as a professional corporation or
Mhm.
association or service corp or whatever they call it. Now with the like entity formation laws, they're way different than they were 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
So most states dentists can set up as an LLC. A lot of times that looks like a PLLC, so a professional LLC.
Okay.
Um, and then almost always our dentist clients are going to make an S corp election, so they're going to be treated as an S corp for tax purposes.
Okay.
An S corp isn't an actual legal entity; it's just a tax election you make. And the reason for doing that is you save the employer share of self-employment taxes on anything that you distribute to yourself versus taking as a salary.
Okay. Now, if I were a dentist, let's say, and I was, you know, buying the practice or whatever, would I come to you and say, "Hey, I need to set up an LLC," and you could do that for me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you could
That's part of yeah.
formation of these entities.
Yeah, so that'll be one of the
It's like a
once
service that you do. That's what I'm
yes,
saying.
yes. And when we were talking about services at the beginning, that is a core service too. Is we help set up the entities. You know, if it's a corporation, we have a shareholders agreement. If it's an LLC, we have an operating agreement. You know, we help get the federal employer identification number, which is just
All
like
the
the
fun stuff.
social security number for the business.
I've
Yeah,
done all that stuff
yeah,
before.
yeah.
In a
Just
different way, not for dentists,
yeah,
but you know,
dealing
anyway,
with anything dealing with the IRS
dealing
is
with
just
other
a
companies.
blessing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah. As far as the purchase agreement, that was called the APA, right?
as a purchase agreement, yes.
So, what concerns you the most as far as that goes? The APA.
Yeah. So the biggest concerns are probably the two biggest sections in an APA,
Okay.
and those are going to be the representations and warranties
Okay.
that the parties make,
Mhm.
and then the indemnification section.
Okay.
So the reps and warranties, these are going to be promises that each party makes to the other
Mhm.
that induces them into like doing the deal.
Okay.
Most of these are going to come from the seller. So the seller is going to be making a ton of reps and warranties. For dental, it's usually between like 15 and 20 things that they'll represent to.
Okay.
This will be things like there's no outstanding litigation against the practice.
How about
They've
malpractice?
Yeah, no malpractice out there.
Litigation being you're sued by your neighbor for some real estate thing too, maybe.
Yeah, anything. Some sort of sexual harassment from an employee,
Yep.
things like that. Um, you know, taxes, like the practices paid all of their taxes when they were supposed
Mhm.
to. So all of these promises that the seller is making to the buyer, enticing them into buying the practice.
Okay.
And the flip side is true for the buyer. The buyer will make some reps and warranties. These will be really simple, like the buyer has the power and authority on behalf of its LLC to enter into this agreement, things like that. And the buyer's, a duly licensed dentist in the state,
Right.
so they can purchase the practice. And so those are incredibly important. When we are representing the buyer, we want to make sure those reps and warranties are as fulsome as possible. So we want
Mhm.
the seller to be promising everything about the practice. On the flip side, when we're representing the sellers,
Mhm.
we try to, we're not unreasonable. We still keep it market, but we try to limit the representations as much as we can. Like sometimes a rep that's thrown in there for the sellers is that, or one that we don't want to rep to is if the seller was speaking with the buyer on the phone
Mhm.
late at night, going over the practice numbers or whatever, the seller's not going to be beholden to that oral talk that they had.
Yeah. Now, do you tell the seller and the buyer that they can speak with each other? Because I know, like in
Yeah,
divorce, for
yeah,
instance, with my mother, she's a divorce lawyer.
yeah,
Her husband for 50 years. Like I told you
yeah,
for this podcast, you know, the spouses are not supposed to talk to each other,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Now, is that different in this? Can they talk to each other? Not the
yeah.
spouses. Can the dentists talk to each other
You might have different
without you?
Yeah, you might have different attorneys tell you different things. I always tell my clients, if you feel comfortable and you have a good relationship at that point with the seller,
Mhm.
have these discussions.
Even
Like,
real estate, you're not supposed to.
yeah, and maybe this is like totally against what most other attorneys would say, but sometimes attorneys just get in the way, and there's absolutely things that get lost in translation, going from the seller to the seller's attorney to buyer's attorney to buyer, that just unnecessarily muddy the waters, that could have just been a 5-minute conversation between the buyer and seller versus
Hmm.
2 hours and $1,000 in attorney's fees, like trying to go through
When I
everyone.
did
So
my real estate transaction for primary residence, that's what I always felt like with the realtors,
yeah, yeah,
is they were fighting it out, but were they really representing me? I don't
yeah,
know, but but they were always fighting it out. It seemed like, and
yeah,
we couldn't just go to the other guy and be like, "Hey,
right,
do you just want to drop the price 5 grand?"
right.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
good. Let's do
it
it.
would have been much easier.
Let's
So
do it. Um, have you advised the client to walk away from a deal?
we've the last year for whatever reason we had quite a few deals fall through.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which
Interesting.
is unusual.
Okay.
So in one of them, there was real estate that went along with the purchase,
Uh huh.
and the parties agreed to a value in the letter of intent from an appraisal that the seller got. When the buyer's lender did their appraisal, and all of this is anything the buyer does is contingent on the lender. Like if the lender doesn't fund for it, the buyer can't purchase it. So the buyer's lender came in and did their appraisal. It came in below, like significantly below the seller's appraisal. There was just no middle ground. The seller wasn't going to accept anything less. So the real estate and the practice fell through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had another one last year. We talked about taxes earlier, representation and
Mm-hmm.
warranty that the seller makes. Last year, I had a buyer in Texas, and he was getting ready to purchase a practice, and we sent over the purchase agreement, and the seller's counsel deleted all of the tax language in the reps and warranties, which was very unusual.
Interesting.
Well, come to find out, he hadn't paid his taxes in months, and there was this massive tax liability outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it actually ended up working out okay. Within a couple months, he got everything straightened out. He paid everything, and our client ended up did going through with it. But usually, when it gets to that point, we don't have to advise the clients not to move forward. Like something big has happened where they've already made that decision in their head. We don't
Okay.
necessarily need to explicitly tell them like you can't move
You can't
forward.
move forward. Da da
Yeah.
da da da.
Like I said,
Yeah.
they're smart people, and they know like this is just not worth it anymore. Um,
It's not a
so
real estate transaction between a buyer and a seller as far as over on Main Street.
right. Yeah.
We don't know if it's gonna move forward or not. I
Right.
don't know. We'll talk to the banker. I don't
We
know.
we had a client this year. He was a seller out on the West Coast, and he unfortunately, and nothing was his fault, but he got wrapped up in some state insurance litigation,
Mhm.
and the buyer's counsel was asking for just really, really unreasonable reps and warranties and indemnification, and
Mhm.
so our client was just
So,
walked away.
sorry
Yeah.
to stop
No.
you right there, but can you tell the audience what indemnification means?
Yep. And that is
Sorry to.
no. That
That's what I
was
did with the banker too.
yeah. No. Just please.
He said-
That was the so you asked like two big concerns in a purchase agreement.
Mhm.
So there's the reps and warranties, and then the next is the indemnification.
Mhm.
So indemnification is one party making the other party whole for anything that might come up that would be a breach of the reps and warranties, or for the seller something that happened prior to closing, for the buyer something that happened after closing.
Okay.
So an example of this is litigation is always the easy one. So let's say that at the time when we're doing the purchase agreements, the seller said there's no outstanding litigation, which is true and correct.
Mhm.
And then 6 months later, the buyer gets a malpractice suit filed against them because they're now the owner of the practice for something that the seller did. So the seller agrees to indemnify the buyer, so make them whole. So if the buyer gets wrapped up in litigation, if the buyer is responsible for some sort of damages,
Mhm.
the buyer's going to be, spending money on attorney's fees. The seller agrees to pay the buyer back every penny that they have to spend fighting something that wasn't their problem or issue. So,
Right. Okay.
um,
And how early do you think an attorney should be involved in these acquisitions?
right away, honestly, and I'm not just saying that because I'm an attorney. I just it's like I said, the first
ASAP.
biggest thing is the letter of intent, and we get brought in all the time after the LOI, and at that point there's things that just don't run nearly as smoothly if you just brought an attorney earlier. But if a buyer finds a practice that they like and they think they want to move forward with, and they're at the point of requesting financials from the broker, that's a good time to start forming your team. So you want to bring in a dental lender, you want to bring in a dental CPA to start
Mhm.
looking over those financials, and you want to bring in your attorney at that point.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're just being driven by the broker who is has different incentives
I
than
mean,
the
have you
buyer.
ever known a deal where the broker's just like, "I'm gonna do this all.
It
We
does
don't
happen,
we
yeah.
don't need an attorney.
Yeah. No, it does
I'll
happen, yeah.
act as an attorney
Yeah.
without a license."
Yeah, yeah.
Like real estate.
Yes.
Have
Broke
you noticed you don't have to name names.
No,
Have
no.
you seen this happen?
Yes, brokers will overstep. I'm starting to see it more and more too, where like CPA firms are starting to offer services where
Mhm.
they like this LOI buyer's representation, where not only are they looking at the financials, but they're like helping to draft, review, and negotiate the LOI. Um, so yes, we do see that, and again, attorneys owe a duty to clients that the broker or the accountant doesn't.
And the
It's
banker doesn't.
and the banker doesn't. They're always going to have your best interests, and they're going to be the ones that tell you, walk away or you can't agree to this, while other parties would be incentivized to maybe
Because
tell you something slightly
I asked
different.
that banker, I said, "Do you owe a fiduciary duty to the client?" And you know what he said?
No.
No,
Yeah.
because he owes, in my opinion, a duty to his bank
Okay.
to protect the bank and protect the depositors.
Okay.
At the
I
end of the
actually
day,
didn't know that, but
he told me no, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's because you're protecting your bank and your depositors.
yeah.
What else could it be? I mean,
Yeah, I actually didn't know
yeah, he
that,
said,
but
no, I don't owe a fiduciary duty to
okay.
the client. I'm like, okay, I do as an
Right.
investment advisor,
Right.
and you do as an attorney. And I think, I don't know, I guess accountants do, CPAs, maybe.
They owe a duty, but and I could be totally wrong. But I think it's a duty that's a little less than a fiduciary duty, but they do owe some sort of duty to their
Yeah.
clients. And
But bankers, I
it,
think they're there to protect the depositors.
yeah,
That's their duty.
okay. I didn't know that.
I didn't either, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That's what he told me, and basically that's what he told me.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was kind of interesting. What legal issues surprise you or surprise dentists the most during these deals?
Um.
Like what comes up?
Yeah. I. It's usually not. I would say it's usually not legal. It's more like I would say on the financial side of things.
Mhm.
Going through the numbers and them not being what they're being sold as. You know, uh, Numbers trending one way or the other, and a way that's like you haven't seen in the past. Um,
Well, people do like puffery.
oh yeah,
The seller, I mean,
yeah, the seller, and obviously that's the
he's
broker's
like, "Oh,
job
I'm
too,
making
is to
all this,
right.
I'm making $2 million, man."
Right, right. Yeah. That's where that due diligence comes in. Yeah.
And who's there to protect them?
So yeah, you'll have hopefully have an accountant, a CPA. We are not accountants or CPAs. We actually do have a CPA on the team that
Mhm.
will help if our clients need it. But and we've seen these financials over and over, so we can kind of just give some like high level advice on what we see, what we think. Ultimately, though, the lender they're going to be doing the most due diligence. Now, I know they don't have a fiduciary
I
duty,
was just
but
gonna say,
they're not going to lend if the numbers don't add up.
because they will not I was gonna say screw over,
Yeah.
their depositors,
Right. Right.
because at the end of the day, they still have to pay those people interest,
Right. Yeah.
and if
So
they go bankrupt, then the dentist, I mean,
yeah. 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 So
they won't have the capital
exactly.
to return.
So the lender will do a lot of the financial due diligence, and yeah, they're just not going to lend if the numbers don't add up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah.
Real estate too.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. Did you know about the carving out of the practice loan versus the real estate, where it's 5 years and then 20 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say for most of the loans that I
Yeah.
see,
Well, let's go to that.
yeah.
Most of the loans what do you see as loans
Um,
in your practice? What have you seen as far as the terms, like the length of,
yeah, most of them are.
what have you seen
Almost every time I see 10 years
for practice or real estate?
for practice. The real estate's going to be like you said, 20, maybe 30.
Okay.
Um, Most of the dental lenders don't require any sort of down payment. They'll finance 100% of it. Real estate's different. They might
Yeah.
require 10-20% down. Um, you know, usually when our buyers are deciding between banks, the interest rate is going to be a big part. They're all pretty competitive, and I think we're sitting right around 5% right now, maybe a little above,
For
maybe a little below for the practice.
okay.
From like the big commercial dental lenders.
From the commercial dental lenders, because I'll tell you what commercial bank is doing because it's in the podcast.
Oh, well,
6 to 8.
6 to 8. Okay.
But
Well,
he's not exclusively a dental lender. He was doing
right.
small business of all types.
Okay.
I mean, he was doing HVAC, everything.
And I could be totally wrong, but I do think dentists, by the nature of the businesses they run and the licenses they have, they get better rates because it's more certain that the bank will get paid back.
And what
It's
he,
less risky.
yeah, and what he loved are the SBA loans
Yeah.
because apparently they're covering the bank somehow on
Yeah.
the back end.
Yeah.
So if they go bankrupt, the dentist or whomever,
The government still pays them or covers it. Yeah.
you
Yeah,
should
that's
watch more of
probably
that
sweet deal.
podcast.
I'll have to go back and watch that. Watch more of it anyways.
More of it. More of the clips.
Yeah.
It was a good podcast, but this is pretty good too. As far as employee handbooks goes, do you require or not require, but tell your dentist they should have an employee handbook?
Yeah, all employers
don't
should
read
have
those.
one. No one does. But if something were to come up, you want to make sure you have something.
Yeah.
We very rarely get asked to draft those or even review them.
Okay.
I think most payroll companies now, that's just part of the package that they offer.
Okay.
If you sign up with them to do their bookkeeping or payroll or whatever, they'll include like an employee handbook in there.
And then that leads to employment lawsuits, of course. Have you seen many of those?
Um, yes and no. I feel like we've seen a lot more employment problems, but
Mhm.
like most I think, 2% of like disputes actually make it to court. So we are involved with a lot of employment disputes, but that's usually just, demand letters and responses and the parties coming to some sort of negotiated settlement outside of court because no one wants to spend the time or money to do that.
Right. Now, what
Um,
would just give me an example, anonymous kind of example,
So,
like a conflict?
yeah, so recently we just finished up two kind of big conflicts. One was, and again, you take I'm an attorney, so of course I'm going to say this, but we had a client that signed an absolutely ridiculous non-compete. Just
That was
something
going to
that
come too. Next.
just something that would never be upheld in court. Our client was wanting to start their own practice, though, and no dental lender was going to lend $1 million with this, with our client being in breach of this non-compete. So, if she had spent a couple $100 on the front end to actually like have someone review that and negotiate that down, she wouldn't have had to spend thousands of dollars now to fix it. So we, luckily the employer was open to like working with us, and we gave up some things on our end for consideration and came to an agreement. So, restrictive covenants are one, and then especially now with DSOs, pay is a
Now,
big thing.
DSO, can you give a?
Yeah, that's a dental service organization. And those were started as a way for non-dentist owners to get involved in the cash cows that dental practices are. So every state's going to have a corporate practice of medicine, dentistry, doctrine to where only dentists, dentists, doctors, they're the only ones that can own the practice entity. It has to be owned by a licensed dentist, medical
The
professional.
DSO does, or the
entity
underlying-
level. Yeah, the actual practice entity.
Okay.
So what DSOs do is they sit above that entity. There's no ownership. Well, a lot of times there is overlap in ownership, but it's a way for practices to just funnel money up to the DSO and those owners to get a piece of the pie without actually being a licensed dentist.
So Alan and Lucas could be hedge fund managers, and we're like, we're going to start with DSO.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then all these other people are kind of our underlings type thing.
Yeah.
And then they pass money up to us, and then
Exactly.
we distribute to our investors.
Right.
Kind. I mean, not.
Yeah, we'll put a bunch in our pocket first and then distribute
Yes,
some to the
well,
investors.
it's 2 and 20 actually.
Yeah.
That's the actual setup. But Don't tell my investors. No,
Uh,
that's for hedge funds. Okay.
so yeah, back to the
Yeah.
employment thing. These DSOs are getting so big and so complicated that it's just inevitable that the pay doesn't come out to what it's supposed to every pay period.
Mhm,
Most associates are going to be paid on some sort of percentage of collection or
mhm.
production. And there's a lot of things that go into that calculation. It's always very well defined. And with these DSOs and all of the parties going on, a lot of times that calculation is wrong. And so we've been dealing more and more with the fallout of that. And a lot of times associates, aren't getting paid the correct amount.
Interesting.
So, we have to,
So they could hire you to
yeah, and in a lot of states will have very severe um, employment laws that punish the employer for not paying the wages they're supposed to. So,
interesting.
some states it can be, 2x the amount plus penalties and fines. I think some states even go up to 4x the amount. But when you
Mhm.
when you kind of threaten an employer that not only are you going to owe these wages, but you're going to owe 3 times that and penalties and fines from the state, they're usually pretty willing to work with you and
You
get
know,
that paid.
what's kinda interesting is that I told you my wife works at Mercy
Yep.
as a gynecologist, and OBGYN, and what's interesting is all these doctors have been coming under these huge healthcare
Hmm.
systems like Mercy, WashU, SSM, and it seems like to me dentists are kinda doing this, but the DSOs
Yeah.
are the Mercy,
Right.
WashU people, are the SSM,
Yeah.
and then they pass all their money up to
Yeah.
DSO, which
Yeah.
is Mercy or whatever.
Right.
Kinda
Right.
like that, I guess,
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah. It's becoming very,
Like, everyone's an employee.
yeah. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
very, very yeah,
It's
it's a similar
consolidation.
yeah, it's getting consolidated. I read a really good article a couple weeks ago. This was from like a financial and economic perspective of where DSOs are headed. And he had this term zombie, we're in this zombie DSO phase. When DSO started getting really popular a couple of years ago, money was free flowing.
Mhm,
Um, there was just so much cash to go in and buy more practices and then get bought out by, the bigger fish, more private equity coming in.
mhm.
And that has significantly slowed down. And so we have all of these like practices that are corporate dentistry, which for a lot of associates isn't very palatable to be in.
Mhm.
But there's no like there's nothing on the horizon for growth or a recap or a buyout from someone else, and so they're just kind of like stuck. So that's going to be something that is going to be really interesting to kind of see over the next couple years, like what happens in the DSO space if it picks up again, or we see more people kind of rebel and go back to privately owned
You know what
practices.
I think is very interesting, actually, is the fact that Mercy and Barnes and all those don't have dentists.
Yeah, it is very
They never
unusual.
do.
Um,
They might have, like, 5 people. I was looking on the thing, I'm like, "Dentistry on Mercy," because
yeah,
you can go down the list or
yeah,
whatever, it's like 5 people.
yeah. I
And they have, like, 2 optometrists
Yeah.
or something like that in their eye shop.
Yeah. It's
It's weird. I would like
dentists are similar to vets and like most of them are, they just not well, vets wouldn't be in a hospital setting, but like
right.
they're most of them are just their own private practices whereas
Yeah.
MDs have really all gone away from like individual private practices
Yeah.
into just working for the big hospital
The big
chains.
4, I
Yeah.
think. I think it's 4. Anyway. Uh, so with a private practice, what issues arise when bringing on associates?
So, yeah, if you're the business owner and you're thinking about bringing on an associate,
Mhm,
I don't know if necessarily issues, but things you want to keep in mind. Obviously, your expenses are going to go up, not just compensation, but all the benefits you're going to be
mhm.
providing. Your liability like threshold goes up. Now you have an associate that's practicing under your name, so you're going to be responsible for, unless it's reckless or grossly negligent, you're going to be ultimately responsible for the work
I
they
have a
do.
question.
Yeah.
How much is malpractice for the if you don't know, that's fine, but
Oh
how
no.
much is malpractice premium?
So it depends. So there's two types
I'm
of
I'm just curious.
yeah, there's two types of malpractice for dentists. There's claims made and there's occurrence. So claims made is only going to cover you while you're working there. So as soon as you're done, you're no longer covered, and that's when you would have to purchase a tail policy.
Tail coverage, yeah.
Yep. So those are going to be a little cheaper, and I think those are maybe around like 15 to 2,000 a year
That's
for.
it?
Yeah, it's probably not as much as you
Do
think.
you know how much
Now the tail policy is incredibly expensive, but
do you know how much OBGYNs are per year?
tens of
It's
thousands.
like 150,000.
Is it really? Oh gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, it's not nearly that much.
Well, someone at Mercer just got sued for 48 million.
Well, yeah,
jury
that's-
verdict. So we won't go into that. But
Um,
yeah, I mean, it can get really expensive. But I'm surprised it was that cheap, actually.
Yeah, and then you get if you do an occurrence policy, which covers you for all the time you were at the practice, even if you're not actually doing any clinical work there anymore. Those are a little more expensive. You might get up to like 3,000.
Yeah, but no dentists are getting sued for 50 million.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
In St. Louis County.
Right.
As far as partnerships go, would you recommend that, or this is in the small business sector, obviously.
Yeah.
Space.
It's I think dentists, people in general, just jump into partnerships sooner than maybe they should.
Okay.
It's very much like a marriage. Like you need to date your business partner before you like combine everything with them. And so I think the ultimate goal for most associates should be to own your own practice outright or be
Okay.
a partner. There's going to be more stresses with that, but the financial benefits are going to far outweigh anything you could do as an associate. So I would always recommend associates get into practice ownership, one way or the other. But it's not something to take lightly, especially if you are going in partnering with somebody. You need to make sure it's someone you trust. You know everything about them,
And how's the comp usually split up in a partnership like that? Like, do you get paid salary and then you split the profits?
Yeah, typically that's what it looks like. Like kind of very high level. The dentist would agree on whatever percentage of collections they want to pay. So part of it is eat what you kill.
Mhm.
If you produce more, you're going to make more in salary. And then depending on how the entity is set up would depend on what those distributions look like. So
Mhm.
most being S corps, one of the rules of being an S corp is they have to be equal distribution. So
Okay.
essentially after you would pay the owners and then take out all of the practice expenses, any profits left that you want to distribute would just be distributed based on your ownership percentage.
Okay. And usually people think that's fair. Or why are they breaking up then, a partnership? Why would a partnership break up? Would it be because of comp?
Not
Or would it
usually.
because like the guy's lazy or something? Or
That does happen. More times than not, people just change. Like goals change, expectations change. I would say very rarely do we have like partnerships breaking up because one partner decides to just stop doing any clinical work, or a partner's like embezzling funds or something. It's just people just move on to different stages in life, and
Everything you've named, like embezzling money and all that, my mom has talked about with the legal profession, where the other attorney has embezzled money from the other partners and one's lazy.
Yeah.
That's a different podcast.
We'll have to have your mom on for that.
Yeah. She doesn't fit this, what we're doing here. Okay. So my next question was what commonly goes wrong when they become partners. So we covered that one. Let's see. Let's go down to the next. It's going to be estate and exit planning. Okay. How much do you deal with exit planning as far as your practice goes?
So one of our attorneys does estates and trusts. So if they're
How many attorneys do you have in your office?
4, including me.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just you and someone else.
So there's 4 attorneys. We have my brother on the team who's a CPA who will look through financials, do valuations if necessary.
Yeah.
But one of the attorneys, the estates and trust attorney, she deals with that type of stuff for clients here in Missouri.
Yeah.
And she would probably be better to ask, but I think usually if you're thinking about selling your practice and looking ahead, I think the norm is you want to start doing that probably about 5 years out.
5 years.
I think the whole process of getting everything, your books, your records, in a clean format finding a broker, engaging a broker, getting a practice profile done, putting it on the market. You're looking at years to sell a practice.
Hmm.
And there's just, with how busy dentists are and doing clinical work all day like that, I think that it takes longer to get things done because they just have a few hours, nights, weekends to actually do the things that are necessary to gear up to sell the practice.
So let's say I'm 60 years old or so. I'm not, but let's say I'm 60. Under this example, I'm
Yeah.
60. This Socratic method, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I'm 60 years old and I said, hey, in my head, I'm going to retire when I'm 65. Then do I go to Allan and I say, hey, I'm going to retire when I'm 65. What do I do? Or do I wait and just start gathering it by myself? Like in a haphazard.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, when do I hire you? 5 years prior, 1 year prior?
Yeah, it's probably definitely when you're getting closer to actually selling the practice. It would never be too early to bring an attorney in, but most of that legwork at the beginning is going to be either on the dentist themselves if they're going to sell it like by owner,
Mhm.
or working with the broker to get everything in place, cleaning up the books, getting the practice profile put together, and actually starting to market it.
Okay.
There's not really anything legally an attorney will do until you get to the stage where a buyer submits an LOI, and then you start reviewing that and going from there.
Okay. So you gotta so you're saying like a year before maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're
But they would probably have a relationship with you anyway, hopefully.
yeah, hopefully,
Because they can, right? Because you're not just doing exit and the other.
Right,
You're
right.
doing ongoing,
Yeah,
like throughout a 30-year career, they could be your attorney.
right.
You could be
Yeah,
their attorney.
exactly. So there's a good chance that we had been doing something for them before, and this was already on our radar, but there wouldn't really be much actual legal work to do until that LOI comes in.
Okay. So you do estate planning?
Yes.
Okay.
My sister, who's an attorney, she does, succession planning,
Is
trusts,
she in the same
estates. Yeah,
firm?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Estates, trusts, and that's like, I'm on the business side of things, so that's totally outside of my realm. But yeah, she helps with that. So
Every Monday, you know what I do? I go to my office. My mom says, no, she doesn't say. She requires me to come down the hallway and we do wills and trusts and
boy.
because that's what she does now.
Okay, that's
And you have to have
remember
2
talking-
witnesses
Yeah,
and the notary, and I
Yeah.
do it all the time, and it's boring.
It is.
It is so
Yeah.
boring, but apparently she likes it. So
Estates attorneys would probably say that like business legal work is
it's
boring,
boring.
but
She did.
I just
She said, I don't know how Allan can do business. She did say that to me when I said, I'm booking this guy, dental. She's like, I don't know how people can do that business.
estates just I've done a little estate work before, and it's very boring.
Have you done any criminal?
My
Off the books? Off the
not
top?
not for if a client has like a speeding ticket, that's easy enough to fix. That's not really criminal. I spent
If a dentist, okay, I'm gonna give you an example.
Yeah.
If a dentist had gas, what do they call it? Oh shoot. Anyway, if they gas their patient too much,
Oh yeah,
and then the person died, would you represent them?
no,
No, you would refer them on.
I'm gonna pass that on to someone else.
Pass the buck on to
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah.
Rosenblum.
Yeah. They'd be much better situated to handle that. My 1L summer. So between my first and second year of law school, I worked at the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office here in St.
Yeah.
Louis, and that was a great experience, and it also, enforced that I don't want anything to do with criminal law. So,
Well, I told you the one case where the guy came in with the gold chain and
yeah.
and all these old people, because like I said, my mom does estate planning now. He's like, man, I have this charge, these drug charges and everything, and all these old people are like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And I told him to go to the certain criminal attorney that I know who's
Yeah.
good. He's like, thanks, man, thanks. I owe you one. I said, no problem, bro. No
Criminal
problem.
attorneys probably get to work with some interesting.
Yeah, no
interesting
problem, bro. I said it's gonna be real expensive though. Just wait. um, so as far as reducing legal issues in a practice, I mean, does that really like if legal issues come up, does that reduce the value of a practice?
Potentially, if they're looking to well, if they're looking to sell, for sure.
Yes, if they're
Um,
looking to sell,
yeah, if there's
some lawsuit coming up.
outstanding litigation, whatever that might be, not only is that potentially going to spook away buyers, but they might ask for some sort of credit or extra indemnification
Hmm.
for that. Yeah, legal issues at a practice are always a problem, but it's certainly if you're looking to sell anytime soon, because that
Hmm.
will come to light. So
Yeah, it's gonna come up, and they're gonna be like, "Hey,
yeah.
what if like a dentist owns a building
Hmm.
and they have their office in it, but then they have tenants also,
Hmm.
and this tenant over here is not paying rent? Is that a problem?
I I mean, it's a
Because
problem
we're gonna
in
like a victim, I guess.
yeah, it's a problem in a couple ways. I mean, you're gonna have to, yeah, potentially start that eviction process, spend money on an attorney to try to get them out.
Would you do that?
I
Do you
no,
evict
no,
people?
no,
You
I don't.
decided to stay out of that part
Yes,
too. No evictions, no
yeah,
criminal.
I like, yeah, no, yeah, no, stay out of that too. Um, yeah, that's an issue because you're gonna have to spend time and money worrying about that, getting them out, and then if you're selling your practice, and you're selling the real estate too.
Mhm.
A lot of times the commercial real estate's going to be valued based on rental tenant income, and if you don't have that anymore, that could very well reduce the value you get for the real estate.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what if the owner becomes disabled
so
unexpectedly?
yeah, we're working with two clients right now where the previous owner unfortunately passed away,
Mhm.
and our clients are trying to get in there, keep the practices going, and then ultimately purchase the practice. So in like the dental space, that's called a locum tenens agreement,
Right, right.
where a dentist would another dentist would step in, whatever financial arrangement between the dentist and either the owner if they're disabled, or maybe the estate or
Mhm.
deceased spouse, um, to just keep the practice running. So that does happen. It's unfortunate when it does, but those there are specific agreements that just outline that relationship, and basically someone just steps in to help for the time being.
Okay. And then hopefully they had disability insurance or something also to
Yeah.
do a stopgap type thing.
Yeah, and so most, especially if you're buying a practice, the lender is going to require you to obviously have malpractice insurance. You're going to have general commercial liability
Mhm.
insurance. Most are going to require disability insurance, or they won't lend. Just for that reason. They want to
Yeah.
make sure that their loan's still being paid, even if you're not able to produce. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. As far as shareholder and operating agreements, do you review those?
mhm.
And if you do, how often do you recommend or how often do you review them?
So we do review that. We do review those. And when there's an typically when there's an issue, is when you have partners and it comes to the when it comes time to separate or move on or whatever, those documents and the wording in there is so important. And I think those documents are sometimes overlooked in how important they are, especially when you're dealing with like a DSO or a sub DSO setup and what you're going to get paid on the back end. Um, it's and I think a lot of those documents aren't touched for years.
Mhm.
So if you haven't looked at your operating agreement, shareholders agreement in the past, 3 to 5 years, it's probably a good idea to have someone review it. And a lot of times those are drafted by kind of just general corporate attorneys that don't know the dental space. And so they don't see the back end, all of these specific
Mhm.
issues come up that just dentists deal with, and so they don't have it in there or contract against it, and it can become a huge issue. So certainly, if you haven't touched it in a couple of years, it might be a good idea. And then if you've brought on or had any significant changes at the practice, like brought on a partner, an associate, and for some reason the operating agreement or shareholders agreement wasn't touched, you need to get that updated
And
immediately.
just to clarify, operating agreement is for LLCs.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
knew that,
Sorry. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah. And the shareholders, as far as shareholders goes, Do dentists are they the only ones that have to be the shareholders, or can outside parties be shareholders?
So, yeah, this goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. Just dentists or an entity owned exclusively by a dentist can be the shareholders or members in a corporation or an LLC that owns the practice.
Okay.
Now, once you get into like DSO structuring, those are typical. There might be a dentist that has some ownership in it, but most of the people that have ownership in those are not necessarily
What if
dentists.
I'm a venture capitalist out of California?
Yeah, so you would
I'm
essentially
gonna come to you. I'm gonna be
yeah
like, "Hey, I'm a venture
yeah
capitalist. I just made a bunch of money in Facebook,
yeah
so I want to own all these dentists.
yeah.
What should I do?
So in the DSO structure,
Would I set up a DSO?
you would set up a DS.
I would set up.
You'd have
I'd
to,
have to.
because you couldn't get any money from the practice otherwise,
Interesting. Okay.
unless the practice owner was just gonna write you a check for being a nice guy or something.
No, they wouldn't. Yeah.
So in the DSO documents are very strictly scrutinized by states.
Mhm.
And so there's, for a DSO setup, there could be anywhere from, 5 to 15 separate documents that are going to show the structure, make sure it's state compliant.
Mhm.
Um and once you do get it set up, it's just essentially a way for, the practice to funnel all the excess cash up to an entity that's usually not owned by dentists. So,
And these people at the top, are they good at managing, or are they really just vultures?
I
You see what I'm saying?
yeah, I think it depends. We work with a lot of DSOs, and some of them are just phenomenal.
So they are being managers and managing.
Yes,
The
yes. Maybe not themselves, but like, sister companies or, um, a lot of times the money isn't the one actually managing the DSO, but they have the people in place to help with everything that the practice
Is
would need.
Aspen Dental a DSO, or is
Mhm.
that is that like a
Yeah, they're probably maybe the biggest DSO. Them in Heartland. Um,
okay?
just yeah.
So can a DSO have a public offering on the stock market? I don't know if Aspen's publicly traded or not. You see what I'm saying?
That's a
And
good
have
question.
shareholders in the DSO that are the public,
That's a good question.
which would be kind of different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they can. I don't think Aspen is.
I feel like I should know that, so we're gonna scratch this out so I don't look like an idiot. I do know I work with orthodontists. That specialty is a group we work with a lot, and
Yeah.
I know at least like the like Invisalign, not Invisalign, but clear aligner companies that provide the orthodontists with those. A lot of those are public companies, but
Yeah.
that's a good question.
Yeah, the
I don't know.
DSO, yeah. Well, we'll look it up.
Yeah,
It's not that big of a deal.
yeah,
I'll look it up on my phone to see see if it's publicly traded.
yeah.
Got the stocks all in there. Okay, so we have a few more minutes here. This went really fast.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so as far as biggest legal myth that dentists believe, that'll be our final question of the day.
biggest
Legal
legal
myth.
myth.
Does it something to do with DSO or
You know,
getting sued? Just getting sued by a patient?
what is the biggest legal myth? Um, that is a good question. I don't know.
Lawyers are scary. That's the biggest legal myth. The ones that
Yeah,
don't represent you, maybe.
yeah, they can be. Um, I don't know. Maybe especially now with with AI and it becoming more prevalent in everything we do. I'd probably say a myth is that you don't need an attorney involved
Oh, they
anymore.
keep saying that about
Yeah,
investment people
yeah.
too.
More and more, I'm being sent documents that are clearly just copy and paste from ChatGPT. Um, and AI can put together agreements and they can touch on what they think is in there, but there's a lot of nuance that AI is not there, and I don't know if they'll ever be there.
Hmm.
I had a client that, like, just a good example of this. I had a client that used AI to review a commercial lease that we were negotiating. Commercial leases are notoriously landlord heavy, and landlords aren't going to budge on a lot of the terms in there, no matter how good you are at negotiating or whatever. So he came back with this list of like 30 things that whatever AI he used said needs to be changed.
Hmm.
And if you don't know any better, you're like, yeah, that sounds fair. Yeah, I think the landlord should do that. But in reality, the landlord is gonna laugh at 95% of those things, even if they are fair. It's just something that like AI just can't grasp. I don't know if it ever will, but I'd probably say that's probably the biggest myth right now, that like you don't need an attorney. AI can handle it for you. Um,
Just wait till I tell you off air what AI story I have about law.
uh,
Anyway, it's been great talking to you.
yeah, thank you, Lucas. This was
And
awesome.
yeah, and I guess tell the audience where they can reach you and how they can reach you.
Yeah, so website is finnlawteam.com, FINN lawteam.com. Feel free to send me an email, Allan, ALLAN at finnlawteam.com. Or feel free to give me a call. Give everyone my cell. It's 314-856-8824. I'd be happy to help or answer any questions anyone has. So
And you're a dental only, but if they have estate questions, they can always talk to you.
yeah. Yeah.
And also, you said your brother was doing bookkeeping.
So he's been doing valuations for dentists
Okay,
for years.
valuations. There we go.
But he's looking at getting more into the bookkeeping side of things. So
Okay, good. So they can
Yeah.
contact him possibly for
Yeah, yeah.
CPA type work.
Yeah.
And would they reach him on FinLegal as well?
Yeah, you just call that number or send me an email and I put them in touch with him. That's no problem. So
Okay, very
yeah.
good. Well, that is it for episode 3. And I hope everyone contacts me. It's lucas.johnson@firststfinancial.com. That's my, what is that? That's my email. And since you're watching this, you're probably on my LinkedIn. And also we'll have this First Street Sound Check episode 3 on YouTube. So it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. This was awesome.
Yeah, have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.